Hi everybody, I'm Flavia and thank you for stopping by. I created this channel so I can share my passion for card making and I hope you enjoy this video. Today's note cards involve a lot of stamping, which I haven't done in a while, at least not this much. Usually when we buy a stamp set, it comes with tiny stamps that we tend to overlook, but not today. In this video, I will show you how to put these tiny stamps to good use and create some really fun note cards with them. The star of today's video is this Mandala Maker stamp and die set by Altenew. The stamp set comes with 5 circular guides and we can use all of them together, which you will see me doing, or just one or a few of them. It really is up to you and the look that you are going for. Along with the guides, we get 44 small shaped stamps. With the Mandala Maker sets, we can create mandalas by stamping these images that came with the stamp set or die cutting them instead by using the coordinating die set. And more importantly, we can go over the stamps that we already have and look for the tiny ones that we usually forget to use because we just don't know what to do with them. I will have lots of examples for you today, so let's get started. For this first panel, I will begin by using the largest mandala guide. Usually I stamp it with a very light color that I know will get covered up if I don't want it to show, but dark enough so I can see it. Another option is to stamp these guide marks with the same color of ink as the images that you plan on stamping over these marks, which is what I'm doing. But of course, if you plan on using die cuts, then the ink color will not matter, because you will glue a die cut piece over these markings anyways. Today I'm using Altenew Crisp Die inks and starting with the color Crimson, I will move on to the color Autumn Blaze, then Maple Yellow, Shadow Creek and Sapphire. Usually I prefer starting with the largest mandala guide, but I don't think it makes any difference if you start with the largest or the smallest guide. For this panel, I will stamp lots of hearts using the stamps that came with the Mandala Maker set, and I will use all of the 5 circular guides. Yes, these cards did take me some time, but I gotta say that I really enjoy the process. With the Mandala Maker stamp set, we get 2 of each size of these tiny pieces, and that is why I am able to stamp 2 hearts at once, which by the way was really great, so thank you for that, Altenew. That was very thoughtful and it did cut my stamping time in half. I'm speeding up the video just to be mindful of your time, but know that I was trying to be very careful and take my time so I would not mess it up. My original plan was to just do the stamping on this panel. However, as you can see here, I accidentally dropped my ink pad over my almost finished panel. I desperately tried to use a sand eraser to fix it, but it wasn't good enough for me as I had to press it too hard to remove the ink in some areas, and those sections on the cardstock ended up being too rough since I removed too many layers of the cardstock with the sand eraser. Before I show you how I was able to save this panel, let's pick the sentiment for this note card. I have a drawer full of die-cut sentiment strips that I cut using this Altenew Essential Sentiment Strips die set. This set comes with 8 dies with sentiments for many different occasions. It is one of my favorites and I like having them ready to go since I use them a lot. I chose a happy birthday sentiment strip in purple cardstock, and I will add a piece of golden cardstock in the back of this sentiment strip so everything is matching. So back to trying to save this panel and making it perfect again. The step 1 of 2 to hide some of the areas where I messed it up will be to add some flat back golden beads, which by the way will bring this note card to a whole new level. Then for step 2, I will actually glue some golden die cut hearts over the ones that I stamped, except for the tiny blue ones in the center. I used the coordinating Mandala Maker die set to cut out these hearts, and I gotta say that this note card turned out to be even better than what I had planned, thanks to me making a mistake and trying to save this panel. So always remember to never give up on your project if you make a mistake. mistake because it forces you to be even more creative when, in my case, desperately trying to fix it, and you might end up with an even nicer result. Let me give you a closer look at this completed note card so you can see all of the beautiful details. To create the matching envelope, I used a hearts border die by Mama Elephant, and I also created 2 other note cards using the tiny hearts stamps as well. For this yellow one, I use all 5 mandala guides again, and even though I did not add any die cuts, I stamped the first round of hearts twice using hearts in 2 different sizes and pink ink color in 2 different shades. I chose the sentiment Proud of You in yellow cardstock to match the note card with silver glitter cardstock in the background. And of course, I added some flat back pearls because it makes the mandala stand out even more. For this other one, instead of stamping the mandala in the center of the panel, like I did before, I stamped it on the bottom left corner, offsetting it a bit just for fun. Also, for each round, I alternated the positioning of the stamp so I would have some hearts upside down and others right side up. And again, for the large shaped hearts, I stamped a smaller heart on top of it using a darker ink. Moving on to the next design, I will only use the largest mandala guide to actually create a wreath. I will only stamp these markings using a very light purple color because I plan on stamping some flowers on top of these markings using a darker shade of purple. Instead of stamping this mandala guide in the center like I did with the other note card, I decided for this one to stamp it on the top left corner, offsetting it a little bit. This layering flower stamp set is also by Altenew, and there is actually a custom stamp included in this set that says, "With love, Flavia Cavalieri." I received it as a thank you gift from Altenew for my purchases with them from the previous year. And it was such a nice surprise when I got it. I really appreciate the gesture, and of course I use this custom stamp all of the time. Plus the flower stamp is just beautiful. There are 3 layers of stamps for building up these flowers and 2 layers for the leaves. For the sentiment, I will stamp Stay Blessed using a stamp from another Altenew stamp set. I love the style of the letters for this sentiment, and I really like this panel as it is. But we will step this up a bit and use this die plate to add some interest and texture to this panel. This die plate is by Simon Says Stamp, and it will not cut out this panel at all. It will only create stitched patterns in the background, which are very nice. Once that's done, I can adhere this panel that I trimmed to be 4 by 5¼ inches to an A2 size top folding note card. To add some interest to these flowers as well, I will adhere some flat back silver beads to the center of each one of them. And here we have the completed note card. I added a white panel inside where I can write a message, and I stamped the sentiment "You are all kinds of wonderful" on the flap of the envelope. I also have to show you a similar note card that I created before recording this video. It has the same design but in yellow and green. I used the same flower stamp set for this one, but a smaller size of the Mandala Guide stamp. The yellow envelope has that same sentiment as the other one, and for the center of these flowers, I used golden beads instead of silver. Moving on to the next design, I will only use 2 of these Mandala Guide stamps, the largest one and the second smallest. This time, instead of flowers or hearts, I will actually use a tiny bee stamp that I also received as a gift from Honeybee Stamps. I love when companies surprise us like that when we make a purchase with them. I have never used this stamp before, and I thought, why not put this one to good use and create a bee's mandala, right? The key to making this work is to always remember how you position your stamp on top of the first marking, because you will need to position the stamp again in the exact same way on top of all of the other markings. For this bee, for example, I think that I was trying to stamp one of the black strips right on top of each mandala marking. For the first panel, the one with the hearts, I placed the heart stamp so that each marking would be right in the center of each heart. And for the flower wreath, I had 2 specific sections of the flower stamp that I was focusing on placing in a way where I would cover 2 of those markings at once, since the flower stamp was large enough to do that. So just always remember to pay attention at how you're positioning your stamp over the first marking before you begin stamping, so you can continue on repeating that process. Since I am not good at coloring, we will skip this part, but know that I use Copic markers to color these bees. Before I adhere this panel to an A2 size note card, let's work on the sentiment by using this stamp and die set, also by Honeybee Stamps. I will cut out the word bee out of a black glitter cardstock, and I will also use the shadow die for this word to cut out a section right in the center of this panel. I also use this same shadow die to cut out a few more pieces out of white cardstock so I can stack them for dimension. Then I will adhere these stacked die cuts right back in the center of this panel. To make the eye for each bee pop up, I will use a black glaze gel pen. So let me give you a closer look at these bees so you can see that this glaze pen really does the trick. For the sentiment, I will stamp and hit emboss a few words from the coordinating stamp set and adhere 1 word on each corner of this front panel. Off camera, I stamped these words using a black pigment ink and hit emboss it with a holographic embossing powder. Inside this note card, I will also stamp the sentiment "Be Yourself." I love this one. And here is the completed card. I also stamped 1 tiny bee on the flap of the envelope to make it match. To add some sparkle to these bees, I used a glitter brush pen over their wings. I also created another one with black and yellow bees with blue wings instead of gray. And I chose a blue envelope to go with this note card. Now for the last panel, I will combine the Mandala Maker with another all-to-new set. This is another thank you gift that I received. This tiny stamp is supposed to be a pear, but I will transform it into an apple by stamping it with red ink and adding a green leaf later using a green Sharpie. This is the one that took me the longest, since these 2 pear stamps are very tiny and I only have 1 stamp of each size. But I did not mind, as I was very happy to get to use them in a fun way. Plus, I was watching Netflix. If you're interested, I will have a list of all products used in this video over on my blog, and you can always find the link in the description down below. I will use this panel to create a note card for a teacher. For the sentiment, I will use the special teacher stamp and die set, also by Honeybee Stamps. This die set comes with 3 plates, 1 shadow die with beautiful piercing patterns that I will die cut out of a craft cardstock. Another shadow die slightly smaller than the previous one. I will use this one with white cardstock, and another one for the word teacher that I will die cut out of a golden cardstock by Recollections. We can use all of these die cuts together as I'm doing today, or just the word die cut alone, or just the word teacher and maybe one shadow die cut. It depends on the look that we are going for, and I love that we have all of these options with this set. I also stamped the words World's Best and placed it above the die cut word teacher, and on the flap of the envelope I stamped the sentiment, "You made a difference." And just like that, we are all done. I hope you enjoyed this video and felt inspired to go over the tiny stamps that came with the sets that you already have and put them to good use. This mandala maker really is a great set to have, as we can combine it with many other stamps. I really wanted to create some more mandalas using the coordinating die set, but I ran out of time. However, soon I will be back with another mandala making video using tiny die cuts. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you do not miss the next video. Take care, and I hope you have a wonderful day.